So my name is Brendon Lee. I'm a product manager for Purview DLP, focusing on delivering our network data security product. And I'm joined by Mahantesh and Liz from our customer experience engineering team. So in today's webinar, we're going to cover a little bit about what our network data security solution is, including the layered approach that we are taking when it comes to protecting managed devices and organizational data, diving a little bit deeper into what is network data security, and then our sort of focus of today, which is our network file filtering with our Entra GSA integration with network data security. And then we'll talk about a little bit about the architecture, solution walkthrough, and then hopefully have some time at the end for Q&A through the Q&A system. All right, so first, at the core, organizations need to protect their business critical data. And users often interact with this data using enterprise applications, which can include Microsoft 365 and non-Microsoft applications like Workday, Salesforce, and even proprietary line of business applications. That data could also be downloaded locally to devices where it can be exfiltrated or shared from the device. That's why we have our existing protections, such as endpoint DLP, which help classify and protect files stored and interacted with from the managed device, such as blocking highly confidential data from being transferred to a USB drive. But of course, data can also leave the device through other channels where users are interacting with third-party, untrusted, or unsanctioned cloud services. And that's why we've introduced data security controls for inline web traffic at the browser and the network layers so that we can detect sensitive data that's in flight before it reaches third-party destinations. Together, this layered approach to data protection, where DLP is embedded into every exfiltration vector in your environment, is the comprehensive answer to preventing against loss of sensitive data from your organization. So as I mentioned, users will likely be interacting from their managed devices with third-party untrusted or unsanctioned cloud apps. And they're almost certainly going to be doing a lot of that work within the browser, which is where our Edge for Business browser protection is critical. But what if the users don't use Edge for Business, or if they jump to a different browser, or even use a locally installed app or Office add-in to interact with these services? This is why we've built network data security, which helps provide a blanket layer of protection, ensuring all traffic passing through the network stack is inspected, ensuring sensitive data remains within the protected boundaries of your organization based on the same sensitive data types used within Purview policies for browser, endpoint, M365, and more. With network data security, we've also chosen to take a better together approach to security, offering an all-in Microsoft solution, which is our key focus for today with our network file filtering with Entra GSA integration, as well as integrations with a growing list of well-known SASE providers, emphasizing choice and flexibility in how you protect your organization's data. So now let's talk about network file filtering with Entra GSA and Purview. With this powerful integration now in public preview, you can enable powerful Purview discovery, protection, and investigation for files shared with unsanctioned and untrusted cloud applications. You can understand which files are shared, who shared them, and where through the use of collection policies within Purview, as well as configuring DLP to enforce your organization's policies through blocking the transfer of files to these cloud apps. Of course, as with all other Purview data security solutions, you can use our alerts and Vendor XDR integration to investigate and manage the DLP incidents that occur. But it doesn't stop there. All of these signals captured help to deepen and empower other Purview solutions and capabilities, such as contributing to the Insider Risk Management User Risk Score for a user, which has downstream impact on what they can access and do through DLP and conditional access policies based on the level of risk determined by their actions. So now I'm going to pass it over to Mahantesh, who will walk through configuring and using this integration.
Thanks, Brendon. quickly share screen. Hope the screen is visible to everyone. Hey everyone, thanks for joining in. As Brendon mentioned, I'll be showing you the configurations on the Entra GSA side and on the DLP policy on the Purview portal as well. So with that, on the Entra side of things, before we start configuring the file filtering policy, there are a couple of things that needs to be taken care of. One is we need to ensure that the internet access traffic forwarding profile is configured correctly. The second one is the TLS inspection policy that needs to be configured. And then we hop on to the filtering policy, where we configure the rules of what URLs, what FQDNs needs to be monitored or scanned with Purview. And then the fourth one is linking this file filtering policy to the security profiles. Either you can create a new security profile or link it to an existing security profile, depending on what your organization's requirement is. And then configure a conditional access policy to ensure that this security profile is in use at the conditional access policy. So with that, I'll deep dive into configuring the file filtering policy for today. And for the other steps, I'll be providing resources at the end, which you can refer and have it configured in your organization. So this is our Entra portal. And on the left-hand side, you can see that there is the file policies, which is in public preview, as Brendon mentioned. In here, you go ahead and create a file policy by providing an appropriate name for it. And then you start creating the rules. The rules here, in this rules is where we configure what are the FQDNs, what are the websites that you need to monitor using Purview. So I'll just go one by one with the options that we have while creating the file filtering policy rule. The rule, give an appropriate name required by your organization. Priority, you can choose any priority that you want. Initially, it gets created with this default priority that we see on the screen. Then the status of the rule, which is enabled, and action. Action is where we tell that what FQDNs and websites needs to be scanned with Purview. And while creating the rule, we select this option called as scan with Purview. And then you can choose what kind of activities you would like to monitor. Currently, we have download and upload that is available, where you monitor any file that is downloaded or uploaded using Purview DLP policies. And we'll dive in a bit to see how those DLP policies can be configured. And currently, with this integration being in public preview, we are specifically supporting only few content types, that is CSV, Word document, PDF, and Excel spreadsheet. But as and when we move towards GA and forward, we'll be supporting more file types as well. And then this is where you configure the destinations that you want to monitor. And you can either choose it based on web categories, or you can manually add the FQDNs and URLs that you want to monitor. So for this demo purposes, I have added the Gmail as an URL, where basically when you try to upload a file to Gmail, we have added one of that URL, and we have added a few other URLs for ChatGPT, where when the user is trying to access any of the unsanctioned AI apps like ChatGPT and try uploading any document which contains sensitive information, that needs to be scanned with Purview. With that in mind, we have added the FQDN of ChatGPT and Gmail as an example for this demo purposes. And this is on the Entra side of things. Then we have to configure the Purview side of things. So the Purview side of things can be configured using two features that we have. One is the collection policies and the other one is the DLP policy. So I'll give a bit of background about when do you need to configure collection policy and when do you need to configure a DLP policy. So the collection policies are configured to detect and capture data shared with your unmanaged cloud apps. So what do we mean by this is basically when you want visibility into your prompts and responses that are that is going on between of any of your unmanaged cloud apps. That's when you configure collection policies. And DLP policies, you go ahead and configure it when you want to block sensitive data from being shared in real time with unmanaged cloud apps. So the combination that we can go with this is you can either have collection policies or you can have DLP policies, and also you can have both collection policies and DLP policies together configured so that you get all the benefits of the Purview DLP policies and collection policies and visibility into the prompts and responses. So when we have collection policies and the prompts and responses are captured, we can even leverage the Purview capabilities of eDiscovery to look for those prompts within Purview realm. Okay. With that, I'll just dive into creating a DLP policy specifically for the Entra GSA integration. So this is our landing Purview portal, and this is where the DLP policies are configured. And here you go ahead and click on create policy, and this is the window that you get. And in here we go by creating the inline web traffic. This is where we can go ahead and create a policy specifically for network data security. The other option that we see here, the enterprise applications and devices, this is specifically for configuring policies for your M365 locations like SharePoint, Exchange, Teams, and rest of the other stuff. Right. So let's click on inline web traffic here. And this is where you provide a friendly name to the policy and a description for the policy. And then this is where you choose the cloud apps that you want to monitor. So the way this works in conjunction with the Entra GSA policy is whatever URLs and FQDNs that you have configured on the Entra GSA side of things, we have equivalent web apps available in this list of applications that we have here. And you will have to, you can either search the applications at the top search bar, or you can try picking the applications from the list of web categories that we have here. And also, apart from that, we even can choose the policies based on the adaptive scopes. And these are all the inbuilt adaptive scopes that are available. And we are planning to increase this adaptive scope categories as well. So the benefit, what we get by choosing the adaptive app scopes is you don't have to manually go ahead and keep adding any applications in your organization. So basically, as and when the applications are available in this specific adaptive scope, they get automatically configured, but we need to ensure that the FQDN or the URL, the appropriate FQDN or the URL is added in the Entra GSA side in the file filtering policy on Entra portal, so that the traffic that goes through that URL is forwarded to Purview for scanning. That's about adaptive scope. And for this demo, I have added a couple of web applications, that is Gmail, which we had added. The FQDN of the Gmail was added in the file filtering policy, as well as the unmanaged web apps. I've added the entire set of unmanaged webmail apps, and also ChatGPT, the URLs that are present in the Entra GSA portal. And if required, you can edit the scope of the policy of whom it applies to, basically by clicking on the edit scope option.
All right. So yeah, from here, users when configuring these policies, As the admin chooses the cloud location that they want to protect, they can also then scope down those locations to specific users, right? So you can include specific users or groups. You can also exclude users or groups. You can choose all users in the organization and exclude from that all setting as well. So you have multiple options that can be used to scope the policy down. We expect most organizations generally aren't going to apply the policy to the entire organization at once. They'll most likely start with a scoped group of users and then sort of slowly expand out from there as they test things. And so that's why we've provided some multiple options in terms of configuration here. So once we have our configured cloud apps as well as our adaptive app scope group, which is all webmail apps, we can go ahead and click next. The next thing that you'll configure within the policy is the where you want this policy to apply. Now we currently have two different options. The one relevant to this webinar is the network option here, which applies to basically all of the SASE integrations that would be integrated with Purview. You can also apply the same policy to Edge for Business through our browser data security protection as well. In fact, we expect most customers will want to apply the same policy to both browser and network because most likely their goals or their outcomes are the same, in which is to protect sensitive data from being exfiltrated to a specific set of cloud apps or locations, in which case, both Edge for Business and the network can provide two different layers of protection. Once we have that configured, we can go ahead and create our first DLP rule. If you've ever configured a DLP policy before, I'm sure you're very familiar with this step. You can create one or more rules that apply to the this content that you specified within this policy. So I'm going to go ahead and click Create Rule. We'll provide a name here, and then we'll choose some conditions that we want to match. We can choose content contains. One of the questions I think in the Q&A was whether content has to be labeled for this to work, and the answer is no. That's one condition that you can specify if you want, whether the content is labeled or not. You can also specify other conditions such as whether it contains sensitive information or if it contains, if the content, the files have different metadata attached, such as the file size, whether it's not labeled. Maybe you want to, for example, block all unlabeled files from being exfiltrated, whether it's file extension or file type, or even based on insider risk level for adaptive protection, as I mentioned before, based on the insider risk user risk level. So you have tons of options here that you can use to configure. In this case, we'll specify US Social Security number and credit card number as the content contains, or as the sensitive information that we're looking for in terms of conditions. Next, we specify the actions that we want this DLP policy to enforce. So in this case, we currently support files with our GSA integration. So we're going to select the file uploaded to or shared with cloud or AI apps, as well as files received from cloud or AI apps. This basically aligns with file upload and file download. We have 4 activities that you can choose from with network data security. Some of our third-party partners also support the other activities here that apply to text. Those 4 activities are broken down into the type of traffic as well as, or the type of content as well as the direction of the traffic. So for example, we have file upload, file download, as you can see here, as well as text upload, text download, which are currently unchecked. We can then specify the action that we want to take when the activity is selected. In this case, we'll choose block because we want to make sure that we block any of those files from that match those conditions from being uploaded. You can then set your incident report settings in which you can configure what level or severity you want the report to be saved as. Okay, we're going to go ahead and save that rule. As I mentioned, you can create more rules if you want. You can DLP policies are incredibly flexible in terms of how many, how granular or generic you want the policy to be, right? Generally, what we see with a lot of organizations is they'll use something like collection policies to first understand how users are interacting with these cloud applications, and then from there, they then create a plan to figure out how to address concerns through DLP protection, right? Because I think one of the main things that a lot of customers want to avoid is creating a lot of interruption to users, right? Creating a lot of friction, and of course B, having to manage a lot of false positive and alerts, right? So that's where we see a lot of organizations using DLP for more scoped, very specific block scenarios, and they use collection policies to then understand the like what type of policies they need to apply in DLP. Okay, I see Mahantesh, you are back. Do you want to pick up from here?
Yeah, thanks, Brendon. Sorry, not sure what happened.
No worries.
Okay, let me just go back a couple of slides. Okay, thanks, Brendon. Thanks for covering. So as I was talking about we can turn the policy on here, and then this page gives us the summary of what the configurations that we have for the policy, and then the policy is created. So this basically takes about an hour for it to propagate within the Purview realm of world, and then we should be able to we should be good with going ahead and testing by uploading the documents. So in here, what I'm trying to show is that as we configure the inspection policy, the TLS inspection policy, and we are ensuring by going to the certificate here that the traffic, which for specifically for this URL is being routed through our certificate that we upload while configuring the TLS inspection policy. That's on the left-hand side is what we see. And on the right-hand side, what we see is the document which basically contains sensitive information of credit card and a few information about the name, expiration date, CVV, and all of that. So I'm going to show you how the end user experience is going to look like when the user tries to upload a specific sensitive document to Gmail. Right. So let me just play this video here. And this is what I had in the previous screenshot where we actually see the certificate which shows that the TLS policy is encrypted. Now the user tries to go ahead and attach a document which specifically contains sensitive information type. And what we can see here is that the attachment keeps loading. It specifically doesn't get attached. And on the right-hand side, we start seeing that there are few errors. Basically, it fails uploading. So we'll see that in a minute here. So, and let me, oops. Fast forward, let me pause it here. Yeah, and as we can see here, this specific attachment that is being attached has failed. And this is the kind of error that the end user sees when they look at the network traffic on the browser. It clearly says that you can't access the destination and it's been restricted by your organization. And this is because of the Entra internet access and the policies that we have configured. And we can see that the attachment eventually fails while getting uploaded. Let me pause it here when it gets failed. Yeah. So there were errors attaching your files and the attachment failed. So this is the kind of experience that we see when the user is trying to share a document or attach a document on our webmail apps. And then we'll see a demo where the user tries to upload the same document on ChatGPT. So the user tries uploading the same document, and the user can be using any of the prompts that they want, like summarize this document or find who is accessing this document and all whatnot. So in here also, we can see that we see a clear message saying that failed upload to this specific URL. And this is the same URL that we had configured in the file filtering policy on Entra. And it clearly says that your network settings does not allow this, or contact your network administrator. So this is the kind of experience that we see on ChatGPT. And then as with any of these policies and any of these alerts, we can see these alerts in our Purview portal, where we basically see what is the URL that the file was being uploaded to, DLP rule match, and what is the location where the file was tried to get uploaded to, and the enforcement plane. So this is what I was talking about when I showed you the toggles of edge for business and network. So if the policy was triggered because of a browser policy, then we usually see the browser as the enforcement plane here. And if it is enforced using network, like what we did right now, it usually shows as network. And we have the sensitive information type that was detected, the policy that triggered, got triggered, which basically matched the DLP rule and got triggered, and then what are the rule actions that we take, and the other stuff like the enforcement plane, what is the host, the FQDN, and the from which Windows OS device is being was this file tried to get uploaded. I'll also show you alert of ChatGPT of how it looks like. Very similar to what we saw for Gmail. We also see the similar alert for ChatGPT, and the same alerts can also be viewed in our Defender portal, like Brendon mentioned earlier, where we can see all this alerts and incidents in the Defender portal. And these are some of our resources that we can leverage for configuring the policies on Entra GSA. And apart from Entra GSA, we also support third-party SASE providers like iBoss and Netscope. The experience remains the same. You configure your iBoss and Netscope with their respective configurations, and you integrate it with Purview. And the next step that we do is configuring the DLP policy, very similar to what we saw just now. Everything remains the same, and you can do all the testing that is required and see what works best for you. I guess that's it from our end, Emily. We can see if we can take questions from the audience, if there are any questions.
Absolutely. It looks like our moderators have been hard at work in the Q&A, so I'll just ask the ones that we haven't answered yet. Looks like the first one says, can it use a whitelist instead of a blacklist? As time goes on, a blacklist gets huge, regardless of if it is being adaptive or not.
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. At this time, we don't have that. The capability is not there, though that is something that we're working on, investigating and seeing how we can sort of implement that sort of experience. Because, to your point, it's a great point that, as things get more complex, as you continue to expand it out, the blacklist is going to become a lot more complex and harder to manage than maybe like a whitelist sort of experience. So yeah, that's something that we're looking into.
Awesome. And then it looks like there are a lot of questions about browsers. Another one just came through, kind of just wanting to clarify, is Edge the only browser that this will work on?
So that's the kind of the beauty and key differentiating capability here when it comes to network data security, right? And one of the reasons why we've developed network data security, right, is that we know that 90% or more of the work that users do is within the browser, right? Whether it's the Edge browser or Chrome or some other browser. There's also a good amount of cloud, interactions that happen outside the browser through desktop applications. For example, the ChatGPT has a desktop application that can be installed and used by users if your organization allows, ChatGPT access, and it's only going to grow from there. Network is unique in that it's able to sort of sit on the network stack, right? So think within the OS, when traffic is sent out of the application into the network stack and out to the internet, right? That's where network data security is intercepting that traffic and then determining whether it needs to be classified or not by Purview based on the policies defined. So, the idea here is that we're able to protect all traffic, whether it's coming from a browser, whether Edge for Business browser, Chrome browser, any other browser, or applications, or add-ins, or even API calls behind the scenes.
Brendon, I just want to add on top of what you just mentioned, the demo that we just saw, this is actually from a Chrome browser. And as Brendon mentioned, we support it. So basically, we are doing the inspection at the network layer. So like Brendon mentioned, it can be any of your applications. It can be traffic coming from any of your browsers. So we do inspect that and send it to Purview for scanning. And whatever verdict we get from Purview is what is enforced based on the DLP policy that we configure on the Purview side.
Great, thank you guys. It looks like our next question says, will attaching and uploading documents count as ingestion? And would we pay the size of the document and other network traffic of the affected host?
Okay, so ingestion is a capability we call content capture. It's a functionality of the collection policy, and it's relevant currently to generative AI, right? So if you send, for example, an interaction, a prompt, or get a response back from generative AI, we can ingest it and store it through content capture so that it can be made available within DSPM, as well as for compliance capabilities like e-discovery and data lifecycle management, communication compliance, and everything. It's a very powerful feature. Currently, the content capture does not apply to files. So it wouldn't apply to any of these files that are uploaded through the GSA integration currently with our current integration level. But from a third-party perspective, if you were to integrate with one of our SASE providers that do support text, those would support the ingestion. And this is all covered by basically our Purview's pay-as-you-go capabilities. So it's all basically you're paying based on how much you use it and how much you ingest based on that through pay-as-you-go.
Awesome, thank you. Our next question says, do the machines need to be hybrid or Entra joined, or does a registered device work on or managed by MDE work?
Sorry, can you repeat that question, Emily?
Yes, it says, do the machines need to be hybrid or Entra joined, or does a registered device work or managed by MDE work?
Got it. So for the Entra GSA integration, the Entra GSA client needs to be installed, and a prerequisite for that is that the device has to be Entra joined, not hybrid joined, but Entra joined, and the user logged in as that Entra user account. For some of our third-party integrations, third-party SASE integrations as well, it's a lot more flexible, right? Because with those, you can install the agents on machines as long as there's a way to tie that machine back to the user within the third-party SASE solution, in which one of the prerequisites to the SASE integrations for third-party is to have the Entra user synchronization enabled for that solution. So it kind of depends, but for Entra GSA, they do have to be Entra joined.
Perfect, thank you. Our next question says, can non-web traffic be inspected and protected? SSH, FTPS, SFTP, SMTP with TLS, etc.
Yeah, great question. And this is one we hear all the time. Right now, we're focusing heavily on HTTP, HTTPS traffic because it's the most common exfiltration method. We are, looking at and evaluating how to provide or extend this protection to other protocols, including FTP, SSH, and the others that were mentioned. We'll keep an eye out. We're going to be sending out probably a survey in the next couple of months to sort of better understand a little bit more about the priorities there. And we'd love to know if you can share that feedback, which protocols are most critical for you to cover. But as of right now, we're focusing heavily on making sure that we cover HTTP, HTTPS.
Amazing. Okay, our next question says, is there a way to enforce the network control without GSA, or is this a prerequisite for all scenarios? For example, could a managed device onboarded into Purview also be subject to the network control?
Great question as well. So currently when you onboard a device into Purview, you're doing so to enable the Defender and endpoint DLP capabilities. Unfortunately, that does not enable the capture or inspection or ability to see network level traffic. And that's one of the reasons why we're building this out the way that we are. In order to capture that traffic, we do need to install a separate agent. In the GSA scenario, we would need the Entra GSA agent installed on the device, which then taps in through filter drivers to the network stack and then is able to route traffic based on those filter drivers. So basically what we do still need that Entra GSA agent to be installed, which means we do need to have onboarded to Entra GSA for if you're choosing to use Entra GSA in order for that traffic to be routed. If you're using a third party, very similarly, you would need that third party agent or appliance installed within your organization in order to route that traffic.
Thank you. Okay, our next question says, how do you differentiate between private data that I want to upload to Gmail or G Drive? For example, a payslip and company data that I'm not allowed to. Is this only possible if they are labeled via Purview?
I think labeling is a really good way of detecting that for sure, right? Labeling, if you're an organization that has a mature data security setup where labeling has already been deployed and your users use labeling, that's an excellent way to detect, sensitive content without having to do too much, deep level text extraction and classification and everything. So that's the best way, I think, to be able to detect quickly some content that it shouldn't be somewhere that's being uploaded to somewhere it shouldn't be. With that said, labels are definitely not the only, method of detecting that. If you don't have labels to detect that, or you have some other, corner case scenarios that you want to be able to detect, we also support all of the sensitive information types within Purview as well. So that's including, out of the box and custom sensitive information types, out of the box and custom trainable classifiers, exact data match, all of that. So you have a lot of flexibility in terms of what data you want to detect and how you detect it that can be configured within the Purview policies.
Excellent. Okay, looks like we just have a couple of questions left here. The next one says, where do the lines get crossed from who should manage the policy based on a client having Purview endpoint DLP, Defender for Cloud Apps, and now GSA plus Purview network security? I get defense in depth, but is there a scenario use case on deploying configs in one versus the other?
So that is a fantastic question. And, one of the things that we've had, just to sort of, show behind the curtain a little bit, one of the things that we've been, struggling with as we've been developing this is exactly your point. There's typically multiple personas that are involved in protecting something like this, right? It's no longer anymore just the Purview DLP or Purview data security admin that owns the protection of this stuff. Now we're talking about involving, client device admins and network level admins, right? So we have multiple personas, including things like conditional access admins, right? So we have multiple personas that need to be involved here in terms of setting this up. One of the things that we are looking at is how do we make this more simple, and how do we bridge sort of some of these personas and roles together a little bit better, right? And make it less friction in terms of setting this up. I don't have an answer for you right now. This is a very complex thing that we're working through, not just with this, but across all of data security, right? It's a big thing that we're trying to figure out the right way to do. I think, even like Mahantesh and Liz and the CXE team, they have some deployment documentation and everything like that. They'll also be updating in terms of highlighting how the best way to implement this would be, and the roles that are required, and the personas that are required in order to get it fully set up.
Excellent. That leads us to our very last question for today, which says, our devices are Entra hybrid joined. We do not have SASE. Does this mean we cannot use this?
So if you don't have a SASE provider today, that doesn't mean you can't use it, but you do need to have a SASE provider for this to be used. So the next step here would be figuring out the right SASE provider for your use case, right? We have Entra GSA as our new, all Microsoft SASE solution. It's a growing product, and we're continuing to invest heavily in this as our first-party integration. And so the Entra GSA would be a great option to look into as that to fill that SASE gap for you. Otherwise, if you choose one of our third-party integrations, we also support multiple SASE providers there as well, and that list is growing. So you have a lot of flexibility. But to answer your question, yes, you do need a SASE provider here, whether first-party integration with GSA or a third-party with one of our other supported partners to enable this capability.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And then we did have a couple of questions about the links that are showing right now. We will add these on the caption of our YouTube page, which I just sent through in the Q&A as well. So you'll have access to these links on our YouTube when it's posted later on today. But looks like that was our last question. So Brendon, Mahantesh, did you guys have any last thoughts or anything you wanted to say before I close this out for today?
No, I think this is. Hopefully, this has been very insightful, for everybody, and a good session to sort of just kind of kickstart the interest in getting this sort of thing set up. As always, I think between Mahantesh, Liz, and myself, we're always open to hearing feedback, getting more insights, and trying to figure out how we can make this solution the best solution it can be for you to solve your data security problem. So please provide feedback through the channels that are provided here by Emily, and we're looking forward to that feedback for sure.
And also, if we would like to hear any use cases that you're currently having in your organization which can help us improve our product, we'd be open to hear that and have a conversation with you guys as well. Feel free to leverage the communications channel that Emily mentioned, and we can get in touch and see what best can be done.
Thank you guys so much. So thank you, Brendon and Mahantesh, again for being our guests today and for sharing that great information with our community. Also, thank you to the folks on the call who helped with answering all of the questions that came through behind the scenes. To all the listeners still on the line, if you're someone who wishes to aid in the protection of the world from cyber threats and desire to have a say in shaping our strategies, blueprints, and recommendations, then we invite you to become part of our security community. Together, we can make a global impact. So join us at aka.ms/securitycommunity. This is also where you'll be notified about the upcoming webinars, events, and other announcements. For those of you who may have additional questions on the topic we just covered or other product-related questions, please feel free to raise them at aka.ms/Azure Purview Community. Thank you all for being part of our community and for joining us on these webinars. We hope to see you next time. Goodbye.